Hey, Dhaval. Good morning. Or should I say
Morning.
good afternoon? Good to
How are
see
you?
you.
Good to see you, Dean.
Yeah. Well, we're doing this with the first cut, no dry runs. We're gonna record this, you and I, just for our future watchers and listeners. Let's do a quick self-introduction. I'm gonna say my name is Gene Gendel. I'm with KSTS Consultant here, and I'm based out of Eastern Seaboard, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, Eastern Seaboard of the United States. And I'm in the business of organizational design, coaching, consulting, and training with various um, gamuts and permutations of the aforementioned. And how about you?
Hi, I'm Dhaval. I'm the founder of Evolve Agility. I'm based out of Houston, Texas. Most of the time, I spend quite a lot of time in the southern United States. And similar to Gene, like I'm part of the community of folks who participate in organizational design and help companies to transform in better ways of working.
Hopefully better, right? We all want that. So we agreed to time box ourselves to 20 minutes, give or take. And I think you had a very interesting, at least to me, it was a very interesting subject, topic you wanted to explore today. So you want to frame it for everyone who's going to be watching it, and also for me, so we can
Yeah.
get started.
Yeah, a part of it is very dear to me. Like we hear this conversation in the social networks and in general conversation around evolving agile, right? And I think where my interest has been since founding Evolve Agility almost 80 years ago has been to pursue that particular track. Like, what does it mean to evolve agile? And I don't mean in a generic sense, like evolve agile for everybody, but what does it mean for evolution of agile inside companies and organizations? And that's an area of interest for me. So I'm hoping like we can have like a more nuanced conversation on the subject of evolving agility as opposed to a generic catch-all conversation, you know?
Sounds good. So okay, first of all, maybe it makes sense to you, since you mentioned the evolution of agility. Do you want to very briefly state what you think by evolution? Because this doesn't pertain to agility only, right?
Correct, correct. I mean, if we go back to where the theory of evolution comes from, it comes from Darwin, and he talks about evolution as a process. It does not talk about evolution as an end state. But the process of evolution is primarily about entities. In the study that Darwin performed, the entities were living organisms and how they find fitness to the context or the environment that they are in. One of the things that he looked at was the beak of the bird that's called a finch. And
Yeah, yeah,
the birds that were in one part of the world in a different ecosystem developed a different kind of a beak profile, like the beak profile, and birds in other side of the world developed a different kind of a beak profile. And these little variations in the context give rise to speciation, right? Different varieties of the same type of an animal. Like you run this process over millions of years through multiple iterations, you end up with genus, you end up with different types of organisms that we see on planet Earth. Like we've evolved from single cell organization, single cell organisms into these different types of organisms where we have mammals, reptiles, like there's a huge variety, and that's what evolution means as a process at the core of it.
I
What does
love
it
your
mean?
Freudian slip. The organization, one cell organization. I wonder how many of those are out there. We have a Freudian theory on top of Darwinian theory. That's great. I love it. So is it fair to say?
Yes.
So if when we say evolution, right, survival of the fittest, we are talking about whether it's a single species or the whole, kingdom, animal kingdom.
Hmm.
It's about increasing, improving our ability to be more adaptive, more resilient, more capable of surviving. If there is some cataclysmic event or some adverse impact of the market, or something that is not really, um, it's not an easy walk in the park. So
Correct.
evolution should help with that, right? The best and the strongest and the fittest survive. Okay, good.
Yes, just a minor correction, Gene, right? I mean, when we talk about fittest, we're not talking about who can punch the other guys harder than it's more about fitness to the context. And more often than not, what you find is organisms or organizations that can find a win-win strategy with other organisms in the
Fair
ecosystem,
enough. Yeah. So
they tend to survive much better than the one who tries to power their way through and eliminate.
yeah.
Uh, you know,
Contextually, fish does not have to develop wings that are better, and birds
exactly.
do not have to evolve fins because they live in different environments. So I think we need to move from the analogy to the actual meat and potatoes of this conversation. Otherwise, people are going to think they're at some sort of a biology or um, what's that course? The the
Fair enough. Yeah.
yeah.
So, what have you seen in terms of how companies are changing what it means to be agile and how are they specifically adapting to whatever's going on in their context?
So, the fairness of your clarification about evolution and ability to evolve is well taken. I understand that this is very contextual.
Hmm.
But since you asked this question directly, I'm going to give you a very candid and direct answer. I have seen very few organizations that um, have taken into account their individual unique settings. And by the way, unlike the natural world, corporate settings, organizational settings of an average company, of an average organization, there's marketplace, they're more or less the same. And maybe some, the industry, the size of a company creates some uniqueness, but in general, they are the same. And my observation that the trend has been, as much as we want to say they have evolved, in my view, a lot of has become a dilution of authentic norms, values, ideas about what agility, aka adaptiveness. Adaptiveness is a more natural, more authentic word that describes agility, what it meant in the first place. So I can think of any large organization that I've dealt with, or even mid-size, and agility from majority of organizations has become almost like um, it's not, it's like a status quo. We have to do it because everyone else does it, but
Right.
unless they translate it into a more natural, more easily understood term like adaptiveness, ability to adapt to ongoing changes, the meaning gets lost. So I don't really see as much of what I would like to see, true, adaptiveness, evolution of adaptiveness, with exceptions.
Right.
What about you?
No, I agree with you on that. And the forces of change has primarily been the lack of understanding of the software domain, which is the domain of solutions economics, not the domain of unit economics. Like until we had the age of the internet, at that point, the dynamics of the world completely changed. In other words, companies that viewed software from the perspective of measuring worker productivity in terms of unit production. And we've had a lot of measures that have come along the way, lines of code, story points, velocity, whatever they use. All of those output-oriented measures are still reflective of a mindset, which primarily means that we are still running a shop floor. Whereas companies that have taken software and created it as their first class concern, companies that have come about in terms of software development as their primary advantage. Tesla, Amazon, Stripe, Google, all of these companies have not have treated software as a first-class problem, like a thing that we need to develop capability around. And they are now thriving. So if I were to look at the last 25 years, what is a big environmental shift that has occurred? Software is eating the world. Second, what kind of companies are surviving or thriving? And we see companies that treat software as a first-class concern are doing much, much better than companies who have offshored or outsourced their software development capabilities.
Yeah.
And in that regard, whether we like it or not, companies that will do better in future are going to be the ones who understand the nature of software, which is different than producing a lot of parts. It is about solving problems for their own business users or for their customers and embedding software in every single aspect of what they do.
And so this brings, you mentioned software a few times, and it's so fair and so true that initially, even the Agile Manifesto was written by a bunch of folks that were, I think they're most of them, if not all of them, were hands-on software developers,
Yes.
product developers. Now, one
Hmm.
thing that I constantly have to squash the
Right.
the general misunderstanding that it's out there is that, oh, it was written just for the IT folks. I couldn't disagree with it more because
Right.
majority of all of those people that were in Snowbird, Utah when they wrote the manifesto, they
Right.
run their own businesses. So if nothing else, they run their own products. It
Yep.
could be just software, it could be software with some offerings. They were business people with very high technical acumen, and to just trivialize and ridicule and dilute the essence of Agile to IT only, it's a sign of whoever does it. It's a sign of
Hmm.
intellectual immaturity and most likely lack of privilege to be there maybe because people are relatively young and that's understandable. But
Hmm.
also, I've seen quite a few more seasoned people, age-wise, they still talk about Agile as an IT thing, and always bugs me out. Like, you're old enough to be there,
Right.
you know, chronologically to know that this is not true. And it raises another concern for me. It's a lot of aggravation with this today. As much as did not want to talk about the coaching profession per se, I think this constant splitting of hairs, hair follicles almost, IT agile coaching, non-IT agile coaching. Oh, I don't develop, I don't code, so let me create a thing on my own. And that's how we end up with a business agility coaching, product coaching, this coaching, that. Yeah, clearly there are dimensions of coaching,
Hmm.
but what I just mentioned, these are actually not proper dimensions. These are dimensions that indicate people jumping from one bandwagon to another just to keep themselves busy and create an illusion of creating unique agility just for themselves so they can play in their own sandbox. Now, clearly, organizational enterprise or executive coaching is the thing because you need to be in front of senior executives, people that are very powerful, very influential. There could be also team level coaching and individual coaching. There could be
Hmm.
technical coaching. But to say business agility coaching or product coaching is so different from agile coaching begs the question, isn't it a part of adaptive agile coaching to also coach product people, such as product managers and product owners? So I'm kind of a little bit confused. I mean, I know why this trend is taking place, but
Right.
just aggravating. What are your
Right.
thoughts?
Yeah, you see, I mean, that kind of market differentiation for individuals, companies, firms to put up a new whatever, like agile coaching or enterprise coaching or product coaching or executive, all of these variations are trying to find a product market fit to say what will resonate. But at the core, it's still the same principles, it's the same values. At the heart of it, it's primarily about building products with high quality.
Yeah.
it is, and this is not the first time the industry has experienced something like this. If you go back almost 50 years, there was the total quality movement, the customer service movement. Today in software world, we talk about it as customer centricity, and we talk about in Scrum as definition of done. We talk about product quality in using different labels and terms, but at the heart of it, what we are saying is build products that actually do what you say your product does and pay attention to your customers' needs because they are the ones who are paying for the product.
So isn't it frustrating to like, isn't it frustrating to you that sometimes you feel like, why do I have to explain this to people? Like, oh, maybe I'm talking to a younger generation, or maybe I'm talking to people that just recently jumped on the bandwagon of this, and they don't realize that back in the days, it was a part of it. We didn't split, we didn't microscopically, like surgically split
Right,
these things like in thin layers just to create unique falsely perceived uniqueness.
right.
I call it fragmented agility. If you don't like my term, let me know. But it's like fragmentation where it's not supposed to be.
Right, right. See, so the purpose the fragmentation serves is to find traction in the market. So think of it like a very core technology, which is essentially what I'm saying is build products that have integrity in the product and pay attention to your customers' preferences and how they change. Now, how do you present these two core ideas into the market? They change over time. In 1950s, it was total quality movement. Now we are calling it as like a stable product increments, iterative and incremental product increments. So I'm not too worried about like folks fragmenting and deciding a niche that they want to play in. I actually find it very amusing and I use it as a way to detect BSers fairly quickly. So I know how to spend my energy. If I notice people who are fragmenting and they're fragmenting without the understanding of the core, then I know I don't need to pay attention to whatever they are saying because it's only a waste of my time
It's
and other
noise, right? You need to separate signal from noise. Yeah.
exactly. So and for that, like building a solid BS filter is absolutely necessary.
But Dhaval, so I agree with you, and I would like to believe that. So this position of yours is I would like to have the same attitude, to be frank. I like it. But at the
Right,
same time, these people that create this unnecessary confusing noise,
right.
the volume of these people has grown. I think there are more of them than of those people that can actually do this more authentically and more originally. So oftentimes it's like blind leads the blind. So these people
Yes.
actually steer the ship now.
Yeah.
So what do you do then?
You see, to detect a signal, you need noise. And that's where like it's a symbiotic relationship. Because without noise, you will not be able to tell what is signal and what is noise. You see,
So
so
you need this noise. You're saying you need their noise.
in order for people with signal to stand out. Now, it's a totally different matter who survives in the long term. You see, and the perspective that I'd like to take is it is not that important whether I specifically survive in this ecosystem, but whether the message survives or not. And
Mm,
this
mhm.
is completely different. The message has remained the same. Build quality products, pay attention to customer. And that message has survived for now almost 70, 75 years. What
Yeah.
has not survived are companies who pay attention to the noise and they operate on the noise because no one ever writes a case study about how we ignored our customers and built crappy products and how we failed. You see?
Yeah, I know. Everyone wants to talk about the greatness and the success and
Correct. Underpinning all of that is essentially their product actually serves some customers' need. That's it. So how did they get there? We have a lot of narratives around it. There is the narrative of the grand product owner who could envision the future. There's the narrative of how people build great products. All of those narratives are just narratives.
Let me ask you this question. I know we promised to ourselves that we shall time box this to maybe 23, 22 minutes. So we have maybe another 3, 4 minutes, I think. What do you do? What are your secret methods? Let's say you are trying to work yourself up to a company that has a great potential to improve.
right?
Yeah, it has senior leadership, senior management. I like to call them true leaders, the ones that actually want to change, that can listen, would appreciate your signal and
Hmm.
stuff that we have, exchanged today. This would be something they would like to know. But as we know, you can only change your company as far as your most senior organizational leader is willing to go. And
Hmm.
this is defined also by at what level you and I can engage. So
Right.
if the gatekeeper, if gatekeeping is at the level where this noise perpetuates and prevails,
Hmm.
I mean, I know, hey, we need to work up, we need to circumvent, we need to skip levels, but what are your methods? What do you do? Like sometimes I realize, yeah, I can skip over these few people and I really have to. And I
Hmm.
need to talk to that person over there. But if I do, he or she may actually feel uncomfortable that I skipped over his or her own subordinates that are in charge of this, quite
Right.
frankly, agile theater, right? It's the show.
Right.
It's so what do you do? What are your methods? Like what do you catch them at a local bar or at a golf course? What do you do?
No, I mean, part of it is recognize that if there is fear that is controlling the organization, where people are reluctant to hear about bad news, like things that are not going well and how we could improve,
Mhm.
you're gonna fight a losing battle. So an approach is to let go of a desire for credit. And what I mean by that is you have to pick one in any organization, whether you're coming as an external agent, like a advisor, consultant, coach, or you're an internal employee, you have to pick one of two things. Do I get credit or do I make things happen? You can never get both.
I,
It just doesn't work that way. So if you really want to have a much better work-life environment, you have to figure out a way to give credit to others so they can claim that they actually did it. But
yeah,
if you chase that credit, you're not gonna get it. You're not gonna get a better work environment.
well, in all fairness, just to say something, I'm always very cognizant of those that are already inside and own a piece of pie, and I never want to steal anyone's thunder.
Right,
But one of the things that is constantly on my mind, hey, this noise is misleading those that are empowered to make decisions. I'm
right.
here to help you to change this from noise to signal so that
Hmm.
you can actually longer term deliver much more value. I may not even have to be here. I will leave if they ask me to.
Right,
But by delivering this short-term BS satisfaction and this false sense of cozy feeling, you're just maybe partially like short-term prolonging your own existence. Because
right,
once they catch on, and we haven't talked in this conversation about the economics of all of this, once they
right,
look at the bottom line, at the ROI over the last couple of years, they
right.
will start chopping heads left, right, and center. And yours is going to be one of them. Probably
Yes,
one of the
yes,
first heads that's gonna roll. So let me help you, unless you jump ship and go change your label and change your title again.
right.
So anyway, I guess I'm thinking out loud, balancing between alluding to those that are actually need to know and need to understand, and those that are actually sending bad signals without threatening the latter.
Yeah, yeah. You see, the age of the company man where you could start your job at one company and retire at that company has long gone. Like that does not exist for most people. So
Yeah,
first and foremost concern for any individual ought to be, am I developing skills that will remain in demand or in market once this company goes down based on whatever noise that they are paying attention to? And
yeah,
that's
okay.
why like and this is part of the ecosystem that has now been created from agile practitioners offering their services to other people is at some level they have acquired skills to operate in any current organization at a skill that is way above the typical employee. That's the reason why you and I are able to go enter into new environments and still have an impact in week one, in week two. We don't need 90 days to ramp up and have an impact. So that's a skill that we hope to transfer to individuals inside the company, but the individuals inside the company may still be very narrowly focused into their own company's career ladder. And that's a
Yeah.
personal choice, you know. I mean, how much faith do they have if their company is actually going to survive or not? And like it has happened in the industry where a lot of these, I would say, fake agile coaches have found themselves in a tough spot because they don't know how work actually happens. All they know is how to ask questions. I don't want to demean the act of asking questions, but there is more to coaching than trying to draw it out of the individual. And that's the gap that I see in the industry. There are a lot of other models to coaching that unfortunately do not fit into the life coaching model that has been propagated in the last 15, 20 years. Like that whole school of thought around becoming a life coach and also offering services in the IT industry is probably not the right
Yeah.
approach to look at it.
All right, listen, this has been very insightful. You know, this is we're recording this, my 1 p.m. and change and yours, I think 12 p.m. and change. It's gonna give me energy for the rest of the day. Thank you for entertaining this with me.
Yes,
Let's keep our promise to ourselves and also to our future audience. Let's keep it under like 25-ish minutes. So one cut, one release. I really want to thank you for doing this with me. Let's see if what we have discussed here today attracts any audience and people are find relevance to what they have been facing daily. And we'll
right.
decide from there what's going to be our next discussion topics. So I want to thank you all,
Yes.
whoever is going to be watching this, and obviously, Dhaval, thank you for entertaining this with me. Okay, so I'm gonna cut it now.
Thank you.
I'm gonna say stop recording there. Stop.